Well, good morning. Happy Saturday, February 25th, 2023. Can you believe we're on the last stretch of February already? So, uh, getting all the tax stuff together. Some companies, because of the requirements this year, not sending out 1099. So we've been trying to figure that out, making sure everything is accurate. But I hope everybody's doing well this morning. I'm Willie. Thank you for being here. If you need IT consulting, reach out. Even if you don't need consulting, you just want to bounce an idea off somebody, reach out at williehowe.com. Click Hire Us, Contact Us. Fill that information out. Someone will be in touch with you as soon as possible. So let's go over to the comments. Already 14 of you here. Only 4 likes. Make sure you hit that. Smash that like button. Good morning, Cody, CH, Sean, Dave, Brian, Zach. Hope everyone's doing well. Can you hear me? Let me know in the comments. Free BS is here. Jeremy. Thank you, everyone. We're going to let people get kind of piled in here for a minute before we get over to our major topic of the morning, which is something that I didn't know existed, and it's actually only been out for a few days, but or at least this version of it has only been out for a few days, and that is the NSA, the National Security Agency, their best practices for your home network. So we're going to take a look at that here shortly. And good morning, Brian, Tony, Shampasta, Darren. Fantastic. Everybody can hear me. Make sure you're hitting that likes up button. Let's get a bunch of people in here paying attention to, well, I got to be careful how I say it. Good morning, JH. You know, the 3-letter agencies here in the U.S., you got to be careful how you address them. But the NSA, they put out a lot of wonderful, them in conjunction with NIST, put out a lot of wonderful best practices guides. So, David, good morning. Julio, good morning, good morning. All right, so what inspired all this? I'm going to bring up the tweet. So, if you've been following along, I've kind of got some new videos where I'm doing like shorter videos that give good, short, to the point explanations about what certain things are in networking. And I have a lot of these in the queue to go along with other videos. Now, I tweeted, and I think this was yesterday morning, so we'll take a look at this. I tweeted that VLANs are essential in modern network design. Find out some of the top uses for VLANs here, and kindly in the comments, Sylvester said even the NSA recommends them, and I'm like, oh, okay, what's this? So went to check it out. Turns out the NSA, so this particular file looks like it's from February 22nd of 23. I don't know what any of these other things mean to the federal government. I'm sure that they have some sort of documenting guides that go along with this. I did leave a link to this down in the description of the live stream, so if you want to check it out. But I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to look at this. We're probably going to look at it and go, okay, what have we been missing in some of our other documentation? And I'm probably going to, borrow some things from this because the NSA's put this out. It's out there. Not going to copy it carte blanche. That would be weird. But things that we don't have in our checklist. We do have a checklist, and I've got a couple customers that are in process with this. We do have a security checklist, and it's everything from your physical security to security documentation, things that HR should be doing. It's a whole base level package of security. I've got 2 customers that we're working through with that right now. And if you need that, reach out, go down, and we're providing that service pretty inexpensively, really. And then on top of that, you have the option to remediate things yourself or hire us to do the remediation. So I've got to do a whole video about that. But let's zoom in on this. Let's check out the National Security Agency, NSA, Cyber Information Security Sheet, Best Practices for Securing Your Home Network. Don't be a victim. Malicious cyber actors are going to leverage your home network They could. They absolutely could, especially if you got some old printers. So here are some of the high-level things. Update and upgrade all equipment software regularly, including routing devices. That's right. If there's not, if there's not a huge problem with the firmware, make sure you're on the latest firmware. Especially make sure that from your manufacturer that you're looking for that firmware information. Exercise secure habits by backing up your data and disconnecting devices when connections are not needed. Maybe they'll explain this a little bit more in depth further down. I don't know. Limit administration to the internal network only. So so if you need to administer your firewall, I have a lot of people that love to open their Edge router UI, the web user interface to the internet, and I think that's a horrible idea. So I always recommend, if you're going to do that, limit the source IPs that can connect to that, to your IPs or whoever's IPs, right? So, or have a VPN. VPN is obviously the best way to take care of that. All right, so webcam, cover cameras when not in use, all right? Web browser, ensure transit security encryption, usually with a lock icon. You can see the NSA has a little lock icon right up here. Backup data on external drives or portable media, or if you've got a Synology, back it up to your Synology and then back it up to C2. Use WPA3 or WPA2/3 with protected management frames. Good advice. Always update you with the latest security patches. This one's interesting. Schedule weekly reboots. I actually don't disagree with that. I really actually don't disagree with that because, clear that memory out, clear those processes out, make sure they're not getting stale. Really not bad advice there. I kind of like that. Utilize a non-privileged user account for everyday activities, right? So if you're surfing the web, creating Word documents, log into the computer as a non-admin user. Make sure that Windows is updated. Home assistance. I think they didn't say assistance, and they use this icon is very familiar, especially if you use like Home Assistant. Limit nearby sensitive conversations. The NSA is telling you. Limit your nearby sensitive conversations when you're by Home Assistants and mute microphones when not in use. The NSA is telling you this. All right, recommendations for device security. IoT, cars, home appliances must be secured to reduce the risk of compromise. Most home entertainment and utility devices, such as home monitoring systems, baby monitors, IoT, are capable of accessing the internet, recording. Implementing security measures can make sure that they are not the weakest link. Upgrade everything to modern operating systems. Keep it up to date. Everything. And that's one huge problem. That's one big problem with IoT devices is sometimes these manufacturers will create this IoT device, or you get some obscure manufacturer, and they never release a firmware update. Ever. How many of them are probably still using compromised versions of DropBear in their custom Linux distros? Secure your routing devices. Keep them up to date. Devices should be replaced once they reach end of life. A lot of this, if you're in the industry, you're going, duh, it's common sense. But it may not be common sense to home users. So I'm actually going to make a Facebook post and a Twitter post with a link to this so that people can kind of go out there. Implement WPA3, WPA2. Implement wireless network segmentation. At a minimum, your wireless network should be segmented between your primary Wi-Fi, guest Wi-Fi, and IoT network. Boom. VLANs right there. Right there. Employ firewall capabilities. So you should note that NAT is not a firewall. NAT is not a firewall. NAT is literally network address translation. So I'm translating from these addresses to this address out to that's not a firewall. It's not watching states. It's not necessarily watching to block or monitor source destination ports. It's literally a translation service that sits right here in the middle. It is not a firewall. NAT is not a firewall. Let's see. Yep. Wireless access points do not generally provide these capabilities. If your ISP supports IP version 6, Ensure your router supports IP version 6 firewalls. Most modern firewalls comply with these rules. Leverage security software. So, leverage security software that provides layered defense, right? So we always recommend running an antivirus and then running Malwarebytes. And Malwarebytes has an EDR version. So if you're in the middle of your insurance company's request to make sure that you're running EDR software, Malwarebytes can fill that role. It's the software that I recommend. The other thing that you want is antivirus. Now, I will tell you, I have 2 young boys, right? And we run Malwarebytes and Windows Defender, and we don't have any problems. It's a really good combination, but your mileage may vary. If you're in the enterprise environment, you probably are going to have to get something else to check those boxes. Let's see. And you don't have to use stuff that's cloud-based. You don't have to. Full disk encryption should be implemented where possible. So they're taking it a step up on a home network, depending on the industry that the clients are in. So we've got some real estate folks, lawyers, accountants. We recommend that, but we don't recommend that usually for everybody. But if the NSA is going to start recommending it, we need to do a video on it because, oh boy, if you lose the encryption, I mean, that can go wrong so many ways. So protect your passwords. And if you've been around for a while, we recommend passphrases. So that they're complex but easier to remember. And using a password manager is highly recommended by the NSA. Of course it is. I'll leave it at that. But if you do need a password manager, we don't recommend LastPass, but we do recommend, at this time, we recommend Bitwarden or Synology. So Synology has a password manager. They have a whole identity suite, and we do recommend that. Limit the use of the administrator account. You should not log in as administrator. All right, let's see. Safeguard against eavesdroppings. Be aware that home assistants and smart devices have microphones and are listening to conversations even when you are not actively engaging with the device. NSA, right here. If it's in their name, National Security Agency. Exercise secure user habits, right? Because you can spend $1 bazillion on security. It takes one errant click, one errant download, and you're toast, right? But let's see what they say. To minimize ransomware risk, backup data on external drives or portable media. Solid. Disconnect and securely store external storage and not in use. If you got a NAS, guidelines are a little bit different. Minimize charging mobile devices with computers using the power adapter instead. Maybe they mean, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I would have never even, I would never plug my phone into somebody else's computer, or when you see those public charging kiosks, I don't use those. I carry 2 power banks with me. Interesting. Avoid connecting devices to public charging stations. There it is, right there. Leave computers in sleep mode to enable downloading and installing updates regularly. Regularly reboot computers to apply the updates. Turn off devices or disconnect their internet connections when they will not be used for an extended time, such as going on vacation. Solid advice. Can't disagree with that. Disable the ability to perform remote administration on your routing device. We talked about that. Only make network configuration changes from within your internal network. Disable universal plug and play. Boom, right there. Because you can get a drive-by, whatever in your network. It opens ports. You're toast. These measures may help close holes. And we never recommend universal plug and play. In fact, I think if you go back, I've got a video where we talk about that. Schedule frequent device reboots. They have a mobile device best practices document. Looks like it's from 2021. So if you use the link and you follow this, check out these sub-documents that they've got. Ensure confidentiality during telework. So talking about using a VPN. And look at this. They have a guide selecting and hardening remote access VPN solutions by the Cybersecurity Information Guidance, the CSI. So there's lots of great sub-documents in here that we're going to have to check out. I'm thinking like this could be This could be a video series all on its own. Holy cow. When connecting to other networks, such as to other work services, such as websites and cloud-based office apps, be sure to also through a secure tunnel by checking for a lock icon on the web browser's address bar right here. If you utilize commercial collaboration services, choose one that provides strong encryption, preferably end-to-end encryption. This is a fantastic guide, so make sure you're checking this out. Recommendations for online behavior. Email best practices. Here we go. Avoid opening attachments or links from unsolicited emails. Number one rule right there. You don't recognize it. You weren't anticipating its arrival. Do not open it. And if it looks funny, and here it is, check the identity of the sender via secondary methods, phone call or in person. Delete the email if the verification fails. For those emails with embedded links, open a web browser and navigate to the website directly by its well-known web address or search for the site using an internet search engine. Fantastic advice. To prevent reusing any compromised passwords, use a different password for each account. We like passphrases. Passphrases. Avoid using the out-of-office message feature unless it is necessary. It makes it harder for unknown parties to learn about you. So now they're getting into OPSEC, operational security, right? So not only are we talking about, home network security, cybersecurity, now we're getting into OPSEC, right? Which is why when you're not, when you're going to be on vacation and you're not home, don't post photos from your vacation spot on Facebook while you're not home, right? It's operational security, OPSEC. So this is great. This guide is crossing over there. Always use secure email protocols, particularly if using a wireless network. Yep, you should always use TLS. Now, we're going to call it an SSL certificate because that's what we know it for, have known it for forever, but we're using TLS, right? We're not using SSL. SSL died at v3, but we still call them SSL certificates, not TLS certificates. I mean, I guess there are people who call them TLS certificates, but by large and far, by a huge margin, if you are in IT, we're not using SSL, we're using TLS, but you're calling it an SSL certificate. Never open emails that make outlandish claims or offers that are too good to be true. Fantastic advice. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. Upgrade to a modern web browser. Yes, make sure that your web browser is always up to date, as with every other software. They have a keeping safe on social media, so take precautions on social media networking sites. Avoid posting information such as addresses, phone numbers, places of employment, and other personal information. They can be used to target or harass you. Some scam artists use this information along with pet names, first car, maker model, and street you've lived on to figure out answers to security questions. Absolutely they do, because Fido 93, that some people think that that's a secure password and it's not. Limit access to your information to friends only and verify any new friend requests outside of social networking. Be cautious of duplicate or copycat profiles of current friends, family, or coworkers. Absolutely. So I get these requests all the time and I never follow them back. And then when I get a chance to talk to the person, I'll ask them, is this you? And some people are proactive and reaching out via Messenger and being like, hey, somebody is impersonating me. And it's impersonation is what this is. And they are looking for more information, right? Can they talk to your family and friends? Things like that. It's a mess. Review the security policies and settings available from your social network provider quarterly or when the terms of use policy changes. Opt out of exposing personal information to search engines. Take precautions concerning unsolicited requests and links. Adversaries may attempt to get you to click on a link. And that's the thing, right? It's all about how they can engage the user. Most of the data compromises that we are seeing, I mean, a huge proportion, a huge percentage of those are because end users were tricked into doing something. And we're seeing a lot of the reason that I use TOTP, temporary one-time password, for MFA is because the codes only last between 30 to 60 seconds. So that MFA exhaustion or MFA overwhelming method doesn't work with TOTP, right? So to me, TOTP is king, even over using hardware security key, because if I have a device and a hardware security key, and I'm not saying don't use hardware security keys, don't conflate this. For me, TOTP is a better option because I'm very hard on physical devices, right? So I'm going to have multiple keys when I am going to treat this device much more gingerly than I am that physical key. And I can back this up and have it with me and things like that. Enable strong authentication on your router. Protect your login passwords. So we always recommend multi-factor authentication on routers when they support it. Disable features that allow websites or programs to remember passwords. Use a password manager instead. And if you've ever messed with the built-in password manager that's in Chrome, which Edge is now based on, you can go in and you can look at every single username and password. So if you're using that, you've got to decide if that's something that you want to do going forward. Many online sites use password recovery or challenge questions to prevent an attacker from leveraging personal information to answer the challenge questions. Consider providing a false answer to a fact-based question, assuming the response is unique and memorable, or document it and keep it somewhere. Use MFA whenever possible. Right there. Right there. When available, prefer using phishing-resistant MFA options. Likely, I haven't clicked on that. TOTP is probably on the list. Probably number one on the list, and then hardware keys, or those might be flipped. I don't know. I haven't looked at that. Exercise caution when accessing public hotspots, right? So we always recommend that when people connect to a Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, that they also connect to their VPN. So if it's their corporate VPN, if it's their home VPN, or whatever, always connect to a VPN, right? To keep you separate from everyone else on that Wi-Fi and even the Wi-Fi provider. And you should always be weary of a public Wi-Fi provider, especially if there's no encryption key to be found. And right here, if you must access the internet while away from home, avoid direct use of public wireless. When possible, use a corporate or personal Wi-Fi hotspot with strong authentication and encryption. Because when you join an open Wi-Fi network, it's open. It's open. Yeah, use a trusted VPN. This option can protect your connection from malicious activities. Exercise physical security in the public space. Do not leave devices unattended. In fact, there is some guidance too that if you're traveling to other countries outside of the United States, don't take the cell phone you care about. Don't take a laptop you care about. And a lot of larger corporations, Fortune 100s, 500s, 50s, that have people going to these countries to do business, they provide them with burner cells, and they have a whole protocol about how you handle that. That cell phone usually doesn't make it back to the States. And it could be the same with a laptop, because they figure when you're in foreign adversaries' land, it's not if you're compromised, it's when and how hard. So they have entire protocols that govern that. Let's see. And I actually know people that work for Fortune 50s, 100s, and 500s, and we have these conversations. So I'm not just shooting in the dark on that one. Do not exchange home and work content. The exchange of information between home systems and work systems via email or removable media may put work systems at an increased risk of compromise. Absolutely. And if you use a personal device, such as through a bring your own device program, use corporate mandated security products and guidance. Absolutely. Absolutely. I never email myself personal things from a work account ever. And never, back and forth like that. And also, what was I going to say about this? Here's the problem about USB keys. They may look harmless, but I've got a stack. Oh, hold on. Let me grab some stuff without dragging my microphone on the ground. I'm going to grab this box of stuff that's right here. Ow. Oh, mother of pearl. All right, so while this may look like a 3D printer box. This is my my box of goodies. This is a Wi-Fi pineapple. This is not the device that I'm necessarily worried about. So when you buy rubber duckies, buy them a half a dozen at a time. Because if you use them properly, or you use them at all in engagements, they're going to get destroyed once people find out what these are. But this is a USB rubber ducky, and it's a USB key that you can put payloads on. And here's the problem with rubber duckies. Very hard to stop them because it identifies as a human interface device, HID, right? Which is a mouse, a keyboard, and things like that. And your computer inherently trusts keyboards. And so you're smoked. So you have to make sure that you and your people use secure, like if you find a USB on the ground, do not put it in the computer. If USB shows up at work on your desk and you happen to plug it in, well, I don't know why you plugged it in, but you plug it in and there's an Excel file or a Word document on there that says something like corporate secrets or payroll, or don't open it. Don't open it, because I will tell you that during an engagement, you very well could get a random USB on your desk targeting you. And once you either plug it in or open the file on it, you're smoked. Now you're getting a retraining. You're getting a coaching, from HR. It turns into a thing. So just be safe. Use some common sense. Use separate devices for different activities. Establish a level of trust based on a device's security features and usages. Consider segregating tasks by dividing them between devices. So, for example, one device may be for financial and personally identifiable information, PII, and use another for games or entertainment for children. Absolutely. Like this machine I'm working with you on right now, I never game on it, ever. We have a different machine for gaming, even though this machine has a nice graphics card and RAM and all that stuff and can game. I don't game on it. It has very strict business purposes, and I don't go outside of that at all. And so here is additional guidance. So here we go right here. And I am also hopping on this disclaimer of endorsement. You are not engaging me in a professional capacity here. The information and opinions contained in this document are provided as is and without any warranties or guarantees. Reference herein to any specific commercial products, process, or service by trade name, trademark, manufacturer otherwise does not constitute or imply its endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the United States government by Willie Howe, Willie Howe Technology, LLC, and this guidance shall not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. So if you want me to put my name and my endorsement on stuff, you do have to engage in paid consulting. There are contracts and all those good things. So I did leave the link down there to this. So let's see where we are at here. The live stream, I'm looking at it here. It looks like we're a little ways behind. But let's go over to the comments. I'm sure there are a lot of comments. And maybe I wasn't flipped over to the screen. It should have been on. All right, over to the comments. David, good morning. I think said that. Pi Wozniak, good morning. Gibby, TVJ, Ryan, Andrew, Joe Trelly in the house. JH says, I go way over the security requirements to the paranoia point. And you have to. You really have to go over the... my little screen wasn't caught up to the live broadcast because I'm like, why is this like on my Twitter? Anyway, let's see. Ryan, can't stay long. Got to go to a friend's house to fix a Synology backup solution I deployed there. My install breaking. Hard to believe. Well, Ryan, if you had things set up, you could access it remotely. Wouldn't have to go on site. Let's see. Gibby says, I have seen screen reflectors. You have to be in front of the screen. Yeah. So, in police departments and other places where there's confidential information. In fact, we just installed those 3M screen protectors where you have to be like dead nuts on the screen to be able to see it. Let's see. Great information to share. Thanks, Tony. TVJ says, this is interesting to see from the NSA. Yeah, it absolutely is. Ryan says, NAT is about as secure as the window on a wall. Absolutely. Gibby says, this is sweet. I've been talking with all our customers about this same thing. There's been a lot of pushback. Now you have some firepower. Absolutely, Gibby. The NSA is providing these best practices as guidance. And when the NSA tells you, like, cover your webcam, you might want to cover your webcam. Tony says, I use Trend Micro and Malwarebytes for all my residential clients. Also, no issues. Yeah, we typically recommend Viper and Malwarebytes, but that would be in a paid consulting fashion. So let's see. Sulcray, good morning. I use LastPass. Nope. Yeah, we don't use LastPass either. Good morning, Jason, Rashid. Bruce McDonald says, we run UDM 3408. What's the max number of phones can ring in the UDM 3004A for one extension? I believe you can do 5 registrations. It might be higher than that. 5 might be the 6204. You can do a minimum, maybe a maximum of 5 registrations, Bruce, on the 6300 series. Yeah, we like Bitwarden. TVJ says, I use KeyPass since you own it and the security keys. TVJ, you should do a video on KeyPass over on your channel. Learn Blue Iris says, on the voice, and that's Joe, on the voice assistants, the next sentence was, if compromised, they can be listened to. So there's a huge difference, Joe, and let's talk about this. If compromised, they can be listened to, yes. But the smart assistants are always listening, and Amazon always has access to Alexa data. They are here. You know what? Let's see. Judge compels Amazon to give up Alexa recordings. So here it is right here. Judge orders Amazon to turn over Echo recordings in a double murder case. Now, this is definitely an extreme example, but now there's precedent in the law that Amazon has had to turn over 2 days of Amazon Echo recordings. And so you can go out and read this. I'll put a link to it. In the thing here. But yeah, they're listening. They're listening. Let's see. I don't know who's in China. Brian, good morning. We are having a blessed morning. I hope you are too. But here's the thing, right? All that gear is OEM'd in China. So you've got to, I mean, nobody here is going to open up. Now, Cisco during the pandemic did move some manufacturing to Mexico. But the thing is, can you imagine based on, I mean, there's business decisions that are in play, which is why devices are made in China, because they can be made much more affordably in China, packaged up into containers and sent here, right? This is a difference in the way our cultures are, in that if you made UDMs, if Ubiquiti made UDMs in the United States, and, you know, they would be very, very, very expensive, right? And I'm not saying that I don't want them to make devices here. I would love to see full stack equipment, 100% manufactured here, coded here, the whole bit. But if you're going to call for that, you better be ready to pay the price tag that it's going to take to manufacture that. I mean, just the world we live in. That's why things are manufactured in other countries, because they can produce the goods much more affordably because of the workforce profile. And there's a whole lot of things. This is a big ball to start unraveling, and I don't feel like at 9:34 on a Saturday morning we could do it. And this is a conversation that definitely requires some of the bits and bourbon stuff. So Sulcray says, what about out of office for internal only? I need it. Yes. So I use internal out of office. I never turn on external out of office. It's nobody's business that I don't work with, whether I'm there or not. But it is very important for the people that I work with, whether it's coworkers, executives, other folks with boots on the ground internally. They absolutely need to know where I'm at when I'm available. People outside of the organization really don't have much business knowing. JH says avoid social media altogether. Some people are dumping their social media. I think social media is a tool that we can use for good to educate folks, right? So 70 of you on right now, 31 likes. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, that like button. Make sure you're subscribed too. It's free. It's free. All right. Joe says, wonder if someone got fired for recommending encryption. Either that or encryption isn't even a blocker for them anymore. Yeah, the end-to-end encryption. I still feel pretty comfortable with Signal. So, and Jason says he agrees with JH about avoiding social media altogether. Let's see. Tony says exactly the kinds of things we always stress with educators and students. So Tony's referring back to the list we were talking about. JH says it's easy enough to run PF or OpenSense at home on a low-powered PC. I tell people not to run and all-in-one. But here's the thing, right? Where's it at? It's not on my desk. So I have an Edge Router X here somewhere. Or, you know, I mean, an Edge Router X is $59. Oh, wait a minute. It's right here. Edge Router X, $59. Provides firewalling, NAT, VPN. That's the other thing, you know, if you're going to remote desktop, don't open it. Once it's on Shodan, you're smoked. You're smoked. Why would you do that? It doesn't even make sense when this firewall is $59 and MikroTik firewalls are even cheaper. Shame on you for opening RDP to the world and not putting it behind a firewall. So yeah, $59. Just, you know, and you can spend as much as you want. I mean, there are firewalls that cost a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, but, let's see, back to the comments. Matawar says, anyone have a guide on enabling and managing BitLocker on Windows domains? I don't, but I'm assuming Microsoft has that information available. Tom says, want to really lock down a system, try doing the DoD method of STIGing a system. Search DISA STIG. So I'll have to, maybe that'll be, Tom, email that to me, and maybe I'll make a video on that. JH says, I take a prepaid burner on vacation. Absolutely. Tony says, shouldn't leave devices unattended in the workplace either. Yeah, I know people that'll change your wallpaper and then set a group policy so that you can't change your wallpaper back. So JH says, don't use Face ID to unlock your phone. Joe says, my last company, you had to take a special laptop to China. Absolutely. Bob says, good morning. Late start to the day. If it's not on the list, it should be. Don't answer the PI questions, personal information. There's a lot of acronyms in IT. The way Bob is using PI is not private investigator. It is personal information questions on Facebook, like what street you grew up on and your mother's maiden name or your whatever name. Absolutely. Do not play those games. And in fact, in our information security awareness training, we talk about don't give those kinds of information away. And I still see people, 40 things, blah, blah, blah. Holy cow, what are you doing? Matawar says, hopefully more businesses guest networks start using enhanced open with guest isolation. Yeah. And here's the thing, right? So whether you're using Ubiquiti, whether you're using GrandStream, whether you're using Ingenious, whether you're using TP-Link, there are ways to roll that guest Wi-Fi password and display it on TV screens, right? And that's a very popular concept. Tim does a lot of that. And Tim actually has custom portals that do all this, and it's Fantastic. Jade says, I end up taking a Chromebook when I go overseas and trash it before I even get on the plane home. That is actually a good idea. I'm conflicted with that in the sense of we're creating a lot of e-waste sometimes with some of the recommendations, but we got to figure it out. And good morning or afternoon, Jim, the IT guy. Systech, good morning. JH says that at work, cell phones won't even work because of how we build the building. So I have a video, JH, coming on that topic. I don't know if you've all been noticing, I'm cranking the videos out, and I've got a lot of these topics that I find interesting, so I think other folks will find them interesting, even if you don't have a technical background. And so that is one of those videos that's coming. All right, let's see here. You all are awesome this morning in the comments, by the way. Jade says, don't use Google Voice as your MFA number. Good advice. Blaine says, this is all such great information, but if many in the world are like my wife, she understands none of it and does not want to learn. And JH says, yep, people are going to go to Walmart and get a $150 router and never look back. So, fun exercise, fun homework for everybody. Let's do this right now. If you're on this live stream and you want to participate in this, and we'll do the results in the next live stream next week, fire up your laptop or your cell phone. Go to an area where there's a pretty good amount of houses, whether you're driving through town, and don't drive and look at your cell phone, but there's apps that, you can do some analysis and capture and things like that. Or if you're at a safe place where you're stopped, you could do it. Like if, I don't ever endorse having your cell phone out while you're driving. So maybe take a walk. Let's do that. Take a walk down the street and look at how many default SSIDs are there. Then connect to one don't connect to them, but look at how many of them are there and unsecured, right? Don't connect to them. Do not connect to them. Do not see if they're using the default admin password. Do not do that. That's wrong. Don't do it. But people do. Okay. So, but don't do it. My advice to you is do not do it. That would be wrong. Be technically breaking the law. Do not do it. Okay. But you will see so many linksys and D-Link and all these different SSIDs. It's not even funny. Bob says, you mean the ones they paid $150 10 years ago for and then don't have any ideas on how to update it or disable UPnP? And JH says, yep. And when it dies, they just get the same thing next time. Absolutely. These vicious cycles that we're in with this stuff. Jim, the IT guy, says, for UK people, look up NCSC for the UK government, which is the equivalent of the NSA guideline. Good to know, Jim. Jim, if you follow me on Twitter, can you go to the post from yesterday and post that link, please? So folks in the States have the NSA guide. Folks that are governed by the UK will have the UK site. Let's see. Shampasta says, do you recommend using Tailscale to access firewalls or admin computers? VPN. Some sort of VPN, some sort of a secure, some sort of a secure service that's using MFA, using encryption. Jordan says, I'm working on a 5th design for my community. Not sure what you're referring to, but good morning, Jordan. Jason says, Lenovo has a security camera flap. Yeah, by default, Lenovo's have a little slider on them now, and I think HPs are coming with a little slider on them. Let's see. So, Joe, I'm not gonna debate the relevancy of smart devices working, how they work with someone who, such as yourself, has a lot of skin in the game. Let's see. Pi Wozniak says that when he was talking about the devices, not talking about manufacturing. Systech says we need to move out of China for our products. I mean, after the pandemic, we should be having some real hard conversations about where our medical supplies are being manufactured. where our medicine is being manufactured, where our technology is being manufactured. I mean, we're not recovered. It's going to be years before we're recovered from the effects of the pandemic and the supply shortages and things like that. I mean, I'm looking at replacing core switches, and when CDW tells me 4 to 6 weeks to even ship, it's probably going to be way longer than 4 to 6 weeks, and that's just to get probably into the United States because they don't stock these things, right? JH, let me know what kind of stuff you're seeing there. JH says our HR system automatically does out of office and it can't be changed. That's unfortunate. Let's see. Jeremy McMahon. Sorry for jacking up your last name there. Says, consider the China-made devices in conjunction with the balloon overflights. They could be testing an activation of the phone home protocol. It's a good movie book plot regardless. I almost feel like for these conversations, I need to have a tinfoil hat readily available. But I'm not going to wear just any tinfoil hat. If I'm going to wear a tinfoil hat, it's going to be like a Viking cap or it's going to be like a top hat. Something that shows how refined I am. Let's see. And then there's Pi Wozniak says, forgive me for a moment while I put on my tinfoil hat. TVJ says, my company forces all computer to lock after 10 or 15 minutes of inactivity. Yes. And even, and we use those same protocols, and that's our recommendations, TVJ. The way to take that a step further is if you have company issued smartphones, you can pair the Bluetooth with the device, and you can do, Windows has this cool little thing that when your Bluetooth device gets so far away from Windows, it'll automatically lock the machine. So if you've got your cell phone in a holder, or if you're like me and you pick it up and you take it with you, once you get 5-6 feet away from the computer, boom, it locks. There's also some software available for Windows. I think it's available for Mac too. Don't take that for gospel, but definitely for Windows, that it can understand when you're looking at the computer screen, right? It uses some face tracking stuff, and when you look away for too long, it automatically locks the screen. There's also a blur. So if you don't want the screen to lock, there's a blur. So if you're not looking at the screen blurs. And I can't remember the name of the software. If somebody knows it off the top of their heads, post it in the comments, please. Let's see. Brian says, leave your computer unlocked and come back to pictures of feet. That's hilarious. Pi Wozniak says, much better. Must have the tinfoil hat on. Shampasa says, a tail scale or head scale is a secure way to access your internal network from outside. Yeah, if it's VPN and it's encrypted and you trust it. Cyberlord says, in my workplace, we had the security duck. Leave the computer unlocked. Then a stuffed toy duck was placed on your desk to embarrass you. You know what? Depending on where you're at, that toy duck is not going to be a deterrent, you know? So, Jason says, Ingenious allows you to create QR codes for the Wi-Fi SSID and use it on a guest network. So I will tell you this. If a place gives me only the QR code to connect to their Wi-Fi, I'm probably not going to use it, because QR codes are another attack vector. And I've actually seen this in the wild where things will show up with QR codes and the business did not endorse it to be there. So when marketing departments are using QR codes, we have a protocol that we ask them to put in place that they have a spreadsheet for tracking the person who created the QR code, a copy of the QR code, and where the QR code is being used. Because we've also asked for a similar protocol for URL shortened links. Those two things right there are, till the day that I'm no longer doing this and far beyond, are going to be security risks and security problems. 73 of you watch and 40 likes. Please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe. It's free. You keep hearing me say that. Yeah, war driving, war walking. Let's see here. The other thing that you want to do if you've got public Wi-Fi available, free public Wi-Fi, only allow outbound port 53 TCP UDP. outbound 80 TCP, outbound 443, and then only allow, VPN ports to slow down things like torrenting and things like that. At least if they're going to do it, they got to do it through a VPN, and it's not going to come back on your public IP. So let's see. Shampasa says, "Oh my, I didn't realize that the chat was behind." Yeah, I didn't realize it either. So we're getting caught up here. Mitchell Earl says, "We used to war drive with a magnetic mounted external antenna connected to a PCMCIA card and pull up all kinds of networks back in the 2000s. So I don't know how many of you remember a piece of software that went on your smartphone called Wi-Fi Faux Fum. It was my favorite. And I don't know that, I think some people tried to resurrect it, but it was Wi-Fi Faux Fum, and you could literally turn this on, put your smartphone on the dash, and drive. And then at the end of your drive, you would have a complete list of all of the SSIDs, the types of passwords and security that they had. And it was a very nice piece of software. Let's see. Cody says Unified Talk phones are now coming with a slider over the webcams as well. Yeah, so the Grandstream. Hey Tony, we need to get our video on the books, and Jason, we need to get our video on the books. Let me get through the next couple days. We'll get them scheduled. But here is a Grandstream video phone, and they are all like this. So you see the webcam up there. You might not be able to see it. There's a webcam up there, but there's also then this little turning device that turns it. And when you turn it, you can see in there that you no longer see the lens, right? So, Grandstream's been doing that. Every single video phone that Grandstream has that little turning knob. So companies who are just catching up, I don't know what they were thinking. Let's see here. TVJ says, "I once found an emergency alert system device at a radio station on the internet. Someone more well-known than me contacted the guy who owned it at last." Oh, wow. That's not good. JH says his lead time on core switches, he's looking at 18 months. Well, unfortunately, in one situation, I got ports starting to fail, so I don't have 18 months. Hey, Jim, the IT guy, if you go to twitter.com/Willie Howe, it's the tweet from yesterday. JH says, "I've had to go to brands I normally wouldn't use," and I think that's what we're looking at too. So, let's see. Brian says they say 18 months, and then sometimes suddenly stuff shows up in a couple months, makes it really hard to plan projects. Absolutely. And we've even had to switch models with inside of brands to be able to get what we, to get what we want. Bob says, "How do you ground a tinfoil hat? Otherwise, isn't in an excellent antenna / focuser?" So I have this telco rack over here that is not bonded, but is technically grounded because there's a rack mount power strip in there that has a ground on it, and it's plugged in. So I've got some level of grounding. It's not great, so I could just put a little copper wire from my tinfoil top hat over to the telco rack. JH says, "I've upgraded to lead foil, better coverage," right? Okay. Rashid asks, "What do you guys use for managing company-issued Android phones? Something that blocks apps downloads." So here's where things get a little strange for me in the corporate world. So while I'm an Android fan, or at least of the platform, in a corporate environment, we only use iPhones because the breadth and depth of management tools for iPhones is much larger than the Android devices. Bob says people are creeped out by their camera on their laptop, tracking their face head, face, body, as it will have a light on, and not always, Bob. So if you look at the Hacker's Toolkit, which is included in several security distributions of Linux, there is the Social Engineering Toolkit. I'm sorry. There is a program that you can use, and this program was actually used in the show Mr. Robot. There's a program where you can create a tool where you can look through the webcam, and there's an option in there, leave the light off. So, yeah, you got to be careful. You all are awesome in the comments. Pi Wozniak says, oh, hey, forgot to ask, has the Switch Pro aggregation been discontinued, or are they're impossible to get? They're sold out. They're sold out. Jeremy says, are we going for a full JAU today? Please tell me, Jeremy, what that acronym stands for. Brian says, when so many appliances are coming with Alexa built in, it's hard to avoid having the devices in your house. Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. But we just watched the movie Megan last night. If you haven't seen it, it's about a lady who creates a doll and the AI learns, and like, yeah, it's a thing. And my wife's like, this is exactly why we're not allowing smart devices and AI into the house. I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. But yeah. Let's see. JH says, I've started not setting up guest Wi-Fi at sites. Yeah, but in some businesses, some verticals, it's expected, right? Coffee shops, restaurants, health clubs, things like that. You are probably working in different environments than I am. Tom says, didn't have your email, so just did a reach out. Oh, thanks. Included a link to the DISA STIG information. I appreciate that. Let's see. Willie has been around on YouTube long enough. I give him a JAU pass. I'm not sure. I'm scrolling down in the comments. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Joe Trelli approved unit. I didn't know that was a thing. So, and we've been friends for a while, I feel like. So, and Learn Blue Iris, Joe Trelli says, Willie, you use TikTok defeating your OPSEC. No, I don't put anything out there that I wouldn't put on YouTube or that I wouldn't put on Twitter. So you have to be careful what you're putting out there. Let's see. Oh, Bob. Okay, so what Bob was talking about was the software that I was talking about, that when you look away, it blurs the screen. And yes, your camera would have to be on for that software to work. So Dave says, Willie, I did a little testing with a couple of Grandstream switches connected via fiber SFP. I can tell you that the Unify bidirectional SFPs work fine. Thank you, Dave, for the information. We've got a lot of info coming out about the Grandstream switches. Matt War says, here's a great idea. Webcam lights should be on the same power rail as the camera. So if the camera is on, the light's on. I'm not an engineer like that, so I don't get it. Yeah, so that's the other thing, right? If you need Blue Iris info, go check out Learn Blue Iris. And Joe's putting out tons of great content over there about Blue Iris. And maybe I'll have him on the channel if Learn Blue Iris would do that, and we will compare and contrast some other NVRs with Blue Iris. So, and that's right, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, but we're going to go ahead and sign off. I want to thank you all for being here today. I do really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you need IT consulting, you need to reach out, head on over to williehowe.com. Go make this an awesome day. Be awesome. If you need anything, let me know. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. And just so you know, I have to awkwardly wait for things to get where they're going before I push this button, or just cuts it off. But yeah, I will definitely see you in the next video. Also, look for Bits and Bourbon coming soon. We have the